Greetings, Blood Bowlers, and welcome to the All or Nuffle podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Blood Bowl. Greetings, Blood Bowlers, and welcome back to a brand new episode of All or Nuffle. You're getting a cheeky little surprise bonus episode today, and that is purely because Games Workshop graced us with some information regarding the upcoming Vampire team, and it is pretty juicy. There's some really good stuff to unpack. So this episode is probably going to be a little bit shorter, in fact, maybe quite a bit shorter than as usual episodes, because all we've got is a single Warhammer community article to have a quick read through and talk about some of the stats and stuff. So this may only be 20 to 30 minutes long, but whenever there is breaking Blood Bowl news, I will endeavour to create an episode the same day so we can discuss it, analyse it, and decide whether we want to spend a lot of us hard-earned cash on getting it. So, essentially today, they showed us everything, barring the unit cost, as in terms of the gold pieces it's going to cost you for each of the units, barring the lineman. They did tell us how much the lineman cost. They showed us the stat line for every single positional. They told us, well, they didn't tell us, but we can get a pretty good idea of how many of each unit we're going to be allowed to take based on the stuff they've shown us. And they showed us the skills of every single unit. Now, I'm going to kind of do things in reverse, and I'm not going to start with the lineman. I'm actually going to start with the big guy. For anybody that hasn't seen, the vampires get access to a big guy, which we are going to assume you can only take one of. They get access to the Vargheist. We have no idea how much this guy is going to cost. I would imagine probably 105, 110k, and you'll see maybe why I've come to that conclusion. So the Vargheist is sitting at movement 5, strength 5, agility 4+, no passing, and 10+ armor. So he's not the fastest, but he ain't the slowest with a 5 movement. Strength 5 is, pretty standard for a big guy. Agility 4+, 50% chance when he's rolling for agility tests. He can't do any passing, and he's pretty hardy with that 10+ armor. In terms of skills, he's got claws, which means that we always break armor on an 8+, regardless of the opponent's armor value. Hypnotic gaze, which comes as standard for pretty much, the entire team, barring linemen, to be honest with you. Hypnotic gaze is essentially, instead of doing a block action, I believe, that turn, you can choose to hypnotize a target. And if you're successful, they lose their tackle zone. So that means that your other team members can move around that particular player freely without having to roll agility tests, because they no longer have a tackle zone. They got the newly changed Bloodlust, which we'll talk about in a second. They got Bloodlust +3, and as is standard with a big guy, Loner 4+, so it's going to be a little bit hard to use them rerolls with him. Bloodlust has been adapted slightly, but it is very much the same as the old version. Maybe we'll talk about, do a bit of a deep dive and go into a little bit more detail, but it is essentially the vampires version of Bonehead. So when your players that aren't linemen are activated, they have to roll to see if they are essentially lusting for blood, hence the name Bloodlust. They have to roll on a d6 and beat whatever number is in the brackets next to the Bloodlust on their skill line. So for the Vargheist, it's Bloodlust brackets 3+. So a Vargheist would have to beat 3+ on a d6 to pass its Bloodlust test. If you pass your Bloodlust test, you just continue as normal. Do your activation, whatever it is you were planning to do, just go for it. It does also mention in the article that if the activation you have declared before you roll your Bloodlust test involves a blitz, then you get to add +1 to the d6 roll, which is good to know. Because with the Vargheist being a 3+, you may want to do most of your blitzing with him, so you can pass your Bloodlust test on a 2+. If you fail your Bloodlust test, however, the player that you've activated must feed on a Thrall lineman, so one of your own players. You automatically roll an injury roll for him, so the there's no armor roll, it's automatically an injury roll, unless that's a typo in the article. So there is a good chance with some poor dice rolling you could be chewing up quite a few of your own teammates. There is a little bit more to it. The description of Bloodlust is, I feel like it's a little bit too wordy. There's a couple of things in there about choosing not to commit to the action that you declared at the beginning if you fail your Bloodlust and all that business. It's a little bit convoluted, but the basic principle is if you pass it, you can continue as normal. If you fail it, you chew up one of your own players. You do still get to continue after you chew up one of your own players. It's just, it doesn't stop their activation or cause a turnover or anything. It's just that you get to do your actions both ways, whether you pass or fail. It's just that if you fail, it's at the consequence of potentially losing one of your own players. Yeah, there is a little bit more to it, but that is the basic principle. So speaking of those linemen that get chewed upon, I think you're probably going to be, as with any lineman, you can take quite a lot, either a maximum of 12 or some 16. I think this is probably going to be 16 because of how likely they are to maybe get chewed up every now and again. They also mentioned in the article that the Thrall lineman is only going to be 40k. He's only going to set you back 40,000 gold to buy. Think of that. You could fill an entire team with one. It'd be terrible, but you could fill an entire team with one and only have a team value of 440k. Brilliant. So yeah, the fact that they cost 40k tells me you're probably going to be allowed up to a maximum of 16 linemen. And that is because, like as we say, they've got the potential to be chewed up quite a bit by their vampiric betters. Movement 6, pretty standard. Strength 3, pretty standard. Edge 3, passing 4+, armor value 8. Now that is probably the most bog standard run-of-the-mill lineman stat line you're ever going to see. Normal movement, average strength, slightly above average agility with a 3+ rather than the 50% that 4+ would provide. 4+ passing is, that's a little bit better than some linemen. 8+ armor, so not the strongest. There's no skills at all on there. They start with absolutely nothing. But that's an interesting stat line. A lot of people will be a little bit find that a little bit lackluster, but you've got to realise that this lineman position for the vampires is existing solely for your other vampire positionals to have something to feed on. Like, they're a fail-safe, essentially, for when you fail your bloodlust. So I can imagine most people are gonna have subs. They're gonna take more than 11 players, and likely the ones you keep on the sideline are going to be the linemen in the event that your other positionals chew them up. Next, we will go on to the Vampire Runner. I very much suspect that we will be limited to 2 of these. I think that a lot of the boxers of late tend to follow 2 positionals of each kind and then the rest linemen, which I think this will follow. This is not a bad piece at all. So it's a runner, so we've got movement 8, which we know by now is very good. Strength 3, average, agility 2+, so no issues picking up the ball. 4+ attempting to pass, and 8+ armor. So the only standout thing here is the movement of 8 and the 2+ agility, which is very much what you would expect from a runner from any team. In terms of skills, we've got Hypnotic Gaze. Again, that's one where you can choose to, instead of block, remove one of your opponent's players' tackle zones. We got Regeneration. Testing my Blood Bowl knowledge here. I do believe Regeneration is, if you are injured, you can roll to see if you totally ignore it. Is that correct? That might be wrong. I believe it is. Shall we take a quick look? I do have my laptop open, considering I am reading the Warhammer Community article about vampires. Blood Bowl, Regeneration. let's take a quick look, because I always like to fact check myself. If the player suffers a casualty result on the injury table, then a roll of a d6 for regeneration after the roll on the casualty table and after any apothecary roll, if allowed. On a roll of 1 to 3, the player suffers the result of this injury. On a 4 to 6, the player will heal the injury after a short period of time to reorganize himself and is placed in the reserves box instead. Yeah, so if you have to roll on the casualty dice, you roll a d6 first. On a 4, 5, or 6, you completely ignore it and they go back into your reserves box. So that's fantastic. It's a really good level of survivability. I can't believe I forgot what regeneration means, because a lot of the undead and the necromantic teams have it, and I've played them quite a bit. But yeah, just refreshing my memory, that's exactly what it is. That is not a bad runner at all. They do have Bloodlust. Theirs is slightly better than the Vargheist. Theirs is Bloodlust 2+. So they're going to be passing quite a little bit easier than the Vargheist. Moving on to the Vampire Blitzer, which I also think we will be able to only take a maximum of 2. And for me, this is the piece that is a little bit unimpressive. Which is surprising, because Blitzers are usually the guys that you find the most interesting. Movement 6, I would have maybe said 7. You've got a vampire here, who are generally considered to be quite agile, and he's a blitzer, so he wants to run around hitting stuff. But, I get it. Strength 4, above average, which means we're going to be getting 2 dice block quite a bit easier, so that I'm no problems with. Agility 2+, although this is good, and it means that you've got more people you can use to pick up the ball or do anything that requires an agility test. I think that if I'm getting 2+ agility on a blitzer, I do really want that extra movement. I really want that extra movement and make it 7. Passing ability 5+, so we ain't going to be doing any passing with this guy, and armor value 9. Now, for me, as I just stated, I think the one thing they really should have done is, we don't have a value for this player. We don't know how much these guys are going to cost, but I would be more than happy to increase the value of these guys by 15 to 20k and increase that movement to 7. Because for me, even the skills aren't great. We've got the Hypnotic Gaze, which we've already spoke about. Regeneration. They've got Bloodlust 3+. So the same as the Vargheist. Not quite as good as the Runner and the Thrower that we're going to talk about in a minute. They've got Juggernaut, which, from all the posts I've seen talking about this new vampire team, this has been quite a point of contention. And it really does seem to have split the community in half. Half of the people say, nope, Juggernaut's great. They are a good blitzer because they've got Juggernaut. And the other half are saying, no, it's not good. I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. The player should have block, which I agree. I do agree that a blitzer should have block as standard, regardless of what skills they have access to. I really do believe that a blitzer should always have block as standard. I know then you risk the idea of, you risk it becoming a little bit samey that everybody's blitzers has block, but it's just, block is such a good skill. Every team feels a little bit better to play when you've got one player that starts with block. But as I stated, they have decided to do away with block on a blitzer and giving him Juggernaut instead. So what Juggernaut allows you to do is that when you're doing a blitz action, the opponent cannot use any skills like Fend, Stand Firm, or Wrestle against your blocks, and the player then can treat a both down result on the blocking dice as a push result instead. Now, don't get me wrong, that skill in and of itself is great. That is a great skill, to be able to, when blitzing, ignore Fend, Stand Firm, and Wrestle. They are probably the 3 biggest skills that frustrate the life out of you in a blocking scenario. Beyond that, you've got skills like Sidestep that make it frustrating to block an opponent's player, and things like that. Basically, they're 3 skills that, if you go gung-ho into a block and your opponent pulls out oh no, that player's got this skill, they are some of the skills that'll make you think, oh my god, it's really frustrating. Fend means that you can't follow up if you push them back. Stand Firm means that they can just straight up to be pushed back altogether. And Wrestle means that they get to treat both down results. Instead of on a both down result, them going down, you both just get laid prone, even if your player or their player has got block. It does not cause a turnover. Nobody rolls an injury. You just get laid prone. So wrestle works in a way that, like, it's kind of like damage control. Like, yep, we're going to have both these players go down, but neither me nor you are going to roll injuries or anything like that, and neither of us can use block. It's a good skill, and it is frustrating when you forget that opponent's players have got it, and you go into it, and then you're reminded, like, oh, there's got wrestle, and it is frustrating. So, Juggernaut is a really good skill to ignore those, and then, as I said, it also gets to treat a both down result as a push. So it does have a use, and it does feel very blitzy, because feel like it belongs in a blitzer is what I mean, because end of the day it is a skill that is only of any advantage to you while you're using blitz actions. So it does feel very, very characteristic of a blitzer, but as a community we've gotten very, very used to a blitzer having block, and maybe it's a little bit of a culture shock, and maybe we should stop being crybaby bitches and wanting things to be exactly how we want them. I get it, and I'm not complaining, really, I'm not. I'm going to buy this team regardless. It goes on pre-order this Saturday. I'm getting it, even though I don't necessarily agree with the blitzer. There's a couple of things that I've said I'd change, like Juggernaut in exchange for block, increase it by movement, blah, 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 by 1. But overall, I am happy. And now we move on to the absolute star of the show. We are talking about the Vampire Thrower. For me, and this is a bold claim, this guy just became the single best thrower in all of Blood Bowl. We don't know his price yet, so that could potentially change it. You know, even if he is the best thrower, if he's too expensive, you know, that's going to bring his grade down a little bit, because you're going to be less likely to take, like, more than one of them, or, you know, any at all if you're going for less of a passing build. But right now, with the information that I have, for me, he is the single best thrower in the entire game. Movement 6, pretty standard, nothing to complain about. Strength 4. Strength 4 on a thrower. That's insane. That is crazy. Agility 2+, brilliant. We know by now, after speaking about Wood Elves, that 2+ agility is very tough to fail. Passing ability, 2+. With the right skills, this guy's going to be passing long bombs on a 3 or 4+. Armor, 9+ on a thrower. Insane. So we got Bloodlust 2+ on the skills, regeneration, hypnotic gaze, we know that those 3 do, and he's got the pass skill, meaning he gets a free reroll on passes that he fails. Now that silence there was intentional. I just wanted to let it sink in. This is absolutely insane. This is better than a Wood Elf thrower. This is better than a Skaven thrower. You have gained, let's compare it to the Wood Elf thrower for a second. You have gained a strength, a point of strength, and a point in armor for the cost of 1 movement. The Wood Elf thrower is 7 movement. This one's only 6. So in exchange for losing 1 movement, you've gained plus on the strength and plus on the armor. That is insane. And I'm going to tell you right now the first skill that I am giving this thrower. Not a passing related skill, which is maybe unusual to hear. It is a passing skill, but it's not for the benefit of passing, is what I mean. I'm going to give him the running pass skill. So what a running pass skill allows you to do is continue and finish your movement after you have completed the pass. Because traditionally, when you commit to a passing action with a player, once they've released that ball, that player's activation automatically ends, regardless of whether they had movement left to do. The running pass allows you, let's say for example, we've got this player here, this vampire thrower, he's got 6 movement. Let's say we move 3 squares, we ping the ball to somebody. He can then, if he's got the running pass skill, use that remaining 3 movement. And the reason that this would be one of the first skills that I get is once you've got that ball away to the other player and the ball is no longer the thrower's focus, you can use the remaining movement to get this guy into position to commit some seriously heinous blocking acts with that strength 4. Like, you've got the perfect double-edged sword of this guy can ping the ball and throw it on a 2+ or 3+, 4+, depending on the minuses. And then not only can he do that, but he's got the running pass skill if you give it to him. He can run up and then start smashing people to bits. It's absolutely fantastic. Naturally, on top of that, you may want to start focusing on the similar sort of skills that you would give to a Wood Elf thrower, such as Accurate, which is a +1 to pass rolls on a quick or short pass, or even Cannoneer, which is the same, a +1 on pass rolls, but for long passes and long bombs. Genuinely, I was in two minds. As excited as I was about the Vampire team when they got announced, there was a little part of me that said, right, I don't need to buy them right now. They're not an urgent buy. We'll get them in the future. They look cool, the models are cool, but we don't need them right now. This drop today, I looked through every single one of these stat lines and was, still kind of in the same mindset. I saw the throwers one and I thought, no, we're getting him. We're getting this team. This is going to be a really, really good team. This is going to be a perfect sort of, how can I describe it? This team is kind of like you've taken a Wood Elf team and let's have a think. Perfect. I've got the perfect matchup. This team is like you've taken a Wood Elf team and an Amazon team and squashed them together. Maybe not in terms of skills, because the Amazon have a lot of dodge. But what I'm getting at is you've got the agility and the passing of the Wood Elf team, because let's face it, I don't care what anybody says, that Vampire Thrower is absolutely insane. We've got the agility and the passing of that Vampire Thrower, but then we've got the strength 4 of the Vampire Thrower. We've got the Blitzers who are also strength 4. We've got the Vargeist, who, a big guy. Neither of the Amazons don't have access to a big guy, but the Wood Elves do, so you've kind of got the Tree Man in that form. It's great. It's fantastic. It's like the perfect balance of, I want an agility team that can ping the ball down the field, but I really want them to be able to smash people to pieces as well. Yeah, and I hope people are as excited for it as I am, because I'm telling you now, I am ordering this team on Saturday when they go on pre-order, 100%. What I would like to do is, there is a section on Spotify now, and it says Q&A or comment or something. Please go on there and let me know. Like, if you click on this episode, it should come up with a little chat window underneath for you to maybe leave a little statement or a comment or something. Let me know what you think about this team. Am I living in dreamland? Am I looking for rose-tinted glasses because I were excited for this team for a long time? Or are they as good as I truly feel that they are? And my honest opinion is, these guys are going to be a beast. I'm using Blood Bowl roster to have a look at them now, and for some reason, Blood Bowl roster have got them sitting in tier 2, but I think these are tier 1. I get why they've put them in tier 2, because your entire team doing well, regardless of their stats or anything, rides on Bloodlust. If you're getting a lot of Bloodlust failures and you're losing a lot of thralls, you could end up potentially being 6 players against a full team, which means it's going to be harder to win. But I don't know. I don't see Bloodlust being as big as a problem as some people do. I think that these guys are going to be absolute monsters. And I will be sure to update you all when I get hold of them, when I've built them and painted them and got a couple of games under my belt. We will do a normal, proper deep dive on them like we've been doing with Dark Elves and Wood Elves. We'll do a proper deep dive on them. We'll talk about my experience playing them, some formations that I've developed, things like that. This was just a quick episode to quickly brush over all of the information that they dropped on them today, but rest assured we will get a more in-depth team spotlight on these absolute beasts in the hopefully very near future. I'm going to get maybe a dozen or so games under my belt with them first, then we'll discuss them. But until then, thank you very much for listening. I'm going to publish this episode immediately so that you get the news in the same day that Games Workshop dropped it. And please look out for the team spotlight for Dwarves that is coming up in 2 days. I'm going to drop it on Saturday. What I will do is add a minor disclaimer to the Dwarf episode. There were a couple of instances where I rambled a little bit, and I'm very self-aware of that. The reason is I admit in the episode a couple of times that Dwarves are a team that I own and I've played a few times, but they're a team that I do not win many games with. I really struggle with the playstyle because mainly most of the teams that I play are fast. When it comes to playing a team that's reduced movements like the Dwarves, I do kind of struggle. So because it's a team that I don't play as often, there were a couple of things I had to Google. Maybe I lost my way a little bit. I've tried to edit it out a little bit and keep it as running as smooth as possible. But you may find that it doesn't run as fluently as it does when I'm speaking about teams that are sort of more of my cup of tea. But yeah, I'm sure you'll enjoy it regardless, or at least I hope you do. And yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'm going to post it on Saturday, and then who knows what team's going to be next after Dwarves. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, until then, take care, guys, and thank you very much for listening to the All or Nuffle podcast.